The sky turned an ominous orange, smoke choked the air, flames roared through the hills, consuming everything in their path. This was Los Angeles, a city known for sunshine and glamour, now transformed into a scene of apocalyptic devastation. The year was 2025, and the City of Angels was under siege by wildfires, the likes of which it had never seen. Homes were reduced to ashes, lives were lost. The air itself seemed to crackle with fear and uncertainty. This wasn't just another fire season, this was different. The fires of 2025 were unprecedented in their scale and ferocity. They burned hotter, spread faster, and caused more destruction than anyone could have imagined. The question on everyone's mind was simple yet terrifying. How did it come to this? The answer, like the fires themselves, was complex and multifaceted. It was a story of climate change, human negligence, and policy failures, all converging to create a perfect storm of destruction. It was a story that demanded to be told, not only to understand the tragedy, but also to prevent such catastrophic events from happening again. The fires that ravaged Los Angeles in 2025 were not a natural disaster. They were the result of climate change, human activities, and policy decisions. Drought and rising temperatures turned hillsides into tinderboxes. Human actions like arson and discarded cigarettes sparked fires. Poor forest management and urban planning worsened the situation. A single spark from a discarded cigarette or lightning strike can ignite a fire consuming thousands of acres. In 2025, small fires in Los Angeles became unstoppable infernos due to the Santa Ana winds. These strong, dry winds push flames at alarming speeds. Climate change intensifies these winds, worsening fire conditions. Decades of fire suppression led to overgrown vegetation acting as kindling. Fires raced through fuel-laden landscapes, creating intense firestorms. The urban-wildland interface complicated firefighting efforts. Homes built near wildlands put lives and property at risk. Embers carried by wind could ignite homes miles away, creating a domino effect. In the aftermath of the 2025 Los Angeles fires, the city and its surrounding areas were left reeling from the devastation. The once familiar landscape was now scarred by blackened hillsides, ash-covered streets, and the skeletal remains of homes and businesses. The air, thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burnt wood, was a constant reminder of the inferno that had swept through. The environmental toll was immense. Entire ecosystems were decimated, leaving behind a wasteland of charred trees and scorched earth. The loss of vegetation led to soil erosion, mudslides, and water contamination, further damaging the already fragile environment. Wildlife populations were decimated as animals were trapped by the fast-moving flames or lost their habitats. The fires also released massive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, exacerbating the very climate change that had contributed to their severity. This vicious cycle of wildfires fueling climate change, which in turn fuels more wildfires, painted a grim picture for the future. The economic impact was staggering. The cost of fighting the fires, rebuilding homes and infrastructure, and treating fire-related injuries and illnesses reached billions of dollars. Businesses were destroyed, livelihoods lost, and tourism, a vital part of the local economy, plummeted as visitors stayed away from the smoke-filled region. Beyond the physical devastation, it was the human cost of the fires that was perhaps the most heartbreaking. Hundreds of lives were lost in the inferno, many of them elderly residents unable to escape the rapidly advancing flames. Thousands more suffered injuries, ranging from burns and smoke inhalation to trauma and psychological distress. The fires displaced hundreds of thousands of people from their homes, forcing them into shelters or temporary housing. Families were separated, pets lost, and cherished possessions turned to ash. The emotional toll of losing everything, of seeing their lives upended in an instant, was immeasurable. The fires also exacerbated existing social inequalities. Low-income communities, often located in areas more vulnerable to fire risk, were disproportionately affected. Many lacked the resources to evacuate or rebuild, leaving them even more vulnerable in the aftermath of the disaster. The long-term health effects of the fires were another major concern. Smoke inhalation could lead to respiratory problems, cardiovascular disease, and other health issues, particularly for children, the elderly, and those with pre-existing conditions. The psychological impact of the trauma, the loss, and the uncertainty of the future could have lasting consequences for mental health. The 2025 Los Angeles fires were a tragedy of immense proportions, a stark reminder of the destructive power of nature amplified by human actions and inactions. As the smoke cleared and the initial shock subsided, it was a time for reflection, for asking difficult questions, and for taking meaningful action to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. One of the most pressing questions was how to address the root causes of these megafires. Climate change, with its hotter temperatures and drier conditions, played a significant role in fueling the flames. Ignoring this reality was no longer an option. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transitioning to renewable energy sources, and investing in climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies were crucial steps to avert future disasters. Addressing human activities that contribute to wildfire risk was also essential. This included stricter enforcement of arson laws, promoting fire-safe building codes, and educating the public about the dangers of careless behavior in fire-prone areas. The urban-wildland interface needed to be rethought, with stricter regulations on development in high-risk zones and measures to create defensible spaces around homes. Policy failures, particularly in forest management and urban planning, also contributed to the disaster. Implementing proactive forest management practices, such as controlled burns and thinning out overgrown vegetation, could help reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfires. Rethinking urban planning policies to account for fire risk, including zoning regulations and building codes, was essential to protect communities. The 2025 Los Angeles fires were a wake-up call, a stark reminder that we are living in an era of increasingly frequent and intense wildfires. The lessons learned from this tragedy must not be forgotten. Preventing future infernos requires a collective effort, a shared responsibility among individuals, communities, and governments. Individuals can play a role by taking steps to reduce their own wildfire risk. This includes creating defensible spaces around homes, being cautious with fire during dry conditions, and having an evacuation plan in place. Staying informed about fire danger levels and heeding evacuation orders can save lives. Communities can work together to reduce wildfire risk by implementing fire-safe building codes, creating community wildfire protection plans, and supporting local fire departments. Educating residents about wildfire preparedness and fostering a culture of fire safety are crucial steps. Governments at all levels have a responsibility to prioritize wildfire prevention and mitigation. This includes investing in scientific research, implementing sound forest management practices, providing adequate funding for firefighting resources, and enacting policies that address climate change, the underlying driver of these megafires. The 2025 Los Angeles fires were a tragedy, but they can also be a catalyst for change. By learning from the mistakes of the past and embracing a future of shared responsibility, we can strive to prevent such devastating events from happening again. The future of our communities, our environment, and our planet depends on it.